Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.8.1 in my Next Small Step RP-1 career mode playthrough. And we have here one of my Hermes spacecraft, which is not in fact intentionally named after the spacecraft used in The Martian, but was just, the messenger of the gods because it's going out to visit all the different planets in the far-flung solar system, which all happen to have the names of Greek or Roman gods. In this case, we are headed up to Vesta, which is one of the largest objects in the objects in the asteroid belt, that is. Named after the goddess of home and hearth of Roman mythology. It is the second largest asteroid after Ceres, which we have done some exploration of as well. But we never did get in orbit. We just got a flyby of Vesta, and so we are now rectifying that with this Hermes spacecraft. We have the latest science that I could possibly have mustered about a year ago. And we are just about to arrive. And that's kind of the thing about interplanetary exploration in RP-1 is you really have to be thinking in advance because, well, you have to be, right? Because you only have we've done so much science since we launched this thing that this thing is now like, oh wow, it just has that science, huh? It's like, well, I guess it's the cutting edge of when we launched it, and we were very excited about it at the time, but this is what we have, and so we are on our way. And the only actual mission objective that we have is to orbit the asteroid with a periapsis of 525 kilometers. And that's all there is to it. And we already have a maneuver node that I planned way back when that appears to still be quite good and valid, and will get us down to about 150 by, it doesn't really matter, kilometers. So that is pretty good, and this is going to burn the vast majority of our propellant, so we are not going to be like the Dawn spacecraft where we're able to go on and do other things afterwards. So let's take a look at the target, and you can't quite see it, but there's like a tiny pale dot here that is slightly a different color than everything else. It looks like those old cartoons, like those old Scooby-Doo cartoons where you could tell that the floor was going to drop out because it was painted differently than the static backdrop. But here we go. Here it is, coming right up on us, and this is one of those things where we are going to be screaming through at tremendous velocity. We have about a 4.5 hour encounter during which we are going to need to brake pretty dramatically. So this is not what the final orbit is going to look like by any stretch of the imagination. But we have an AJ-10 Advanced packed on here with Aerozine and NTO because it is nice and storable. But yeah, so that should do it for that. We're just about to enter into the sphere of influence of Vesta. There we go. We have flipped in, and we are ready for me to completely lose track of the body. There it is. And we are coming down. I think I'm actually going to do this with the maneuver planner so I can execute the node. And there we go. Everything seems to be working very well so far. You can see that we are running all of the science. We have about 90 days worth of everything to do. One thing that I want to check while we're getting ready to do this is, let's check what is... Oh, I don't know why I thought it was going to tell me here. Okay, it's about 300 kilometers is what we're looking for space high, and I think that this is a lovely thing that we can do, is we'll just get into... Just gonna back this up just slightly so that we are below the below the orbit contract of 525 kilometers, but above the value of space low for Vesta, so that we can get all the space high science first. Seems like a plan to me. So we'll call it 350 kilometers, and then I will fix that orbit a little bit. Put this directly on the periapsis. 37 seems good. All right, now we can execute that node, and you can see we are coming straight on down. But yeah, this is Vesta's an interesting little body here, and we have, oh, you can see it rotating pretty quickly. Oh man, so cool. But yeah, it's one of the it's the second largest asteroid and one of the brightest asteroids that you can see from Earth, and that makes it a really cool and interesting target that was discovered pretty early on, or a lot earlier than a lot of other things. It was discovered by Heinrich Olbers in, yeah, so it was discovered way back in 1807, so it was bright enough to be seen from very, very far away with tools that were relatively rudimentary compared to what we have nowadays. But we've done some mapping of it using our telescopes up until much more recently, and it was identified as a target of the Dawn spacecraft, which was out to explore large bodies in the asteroid belt, and this one certainly applied. So the Dawn spacecraft, when it arrived, was able to do all kinds of really neat stuff. It did some high-altitude orbits using visual imagers, and it did a low-altitude mapping orbit, which it was able to build like a digital terrain model and all kinds of videos and things like that it was able to send along. We were able to use the spacecraft to calculate the precise mass and the gravity field. And the thing that just blows me away is we were able to do all this really cool, specific science using the Dawn spacecraft, and then Dawn was like, all right, that's it. We're all done here. We've gotten everything that we need to get. So it's time for us to move on. And then it was after that, all of that science was done, that the Dawn spacecraft packed up and moved on to Ceres, which is just unbelievably cool. We do not have anything nearly as neat. Well, that's not true. This is incredibly neat, but we don't have anything that is going to be able to move on to another place afterwards. But this is something that I think is incredibly cool. And so this is using older technology to be able to do exploration that we were only able to do recently. But when you have kind of, not infinite budget, but when you have as much budget as we have here, because I don't think the dollars are matching up quite with how much we were able to spend on the Apollo program and everything else, it feels like we are able to build and research much bigger and better rockets and do a lot more infrastructure and things like that. And there's other costs that we're not paying, but I feel like we are doing pretty darn well. And I think that whatever government, the NASA or whoever we want to say is funding us, is really getting the best bang for their buck, because we are exploring as much of the solar system as we possibly can, and doing it a lot earlier than it has been done in reality. So we're kind of showing that it may have been plausible to do all this exploration using much earlier technology. So just plain old storable propellants. If you pack enough and you throw the darn thing hard enough, then it might indeed be able to reach something out in the asteroid belt. So we're breaking into this orbit, and we are just about finished with it. Our thrust-to-weight ratio is increasing dramatically as the fuel reserves dwindle. We do want to make sure we have a little bit left, because I have one more orbit to get into after this one, but we should have plenty. Now that we've shed all of the velocity from going up this high in altitude over the sun, we shouldn't have any problem maneuvering around. This thing actually has, let's see, it doesn't have for some reason I thought this might have a reaction control wheel, but it does not. It does have a decoupler, so I can remove this whole engine bus, which is kind of a fun thing, but not necessary at the moment, obviously. But if we look at our orbit, we are in 368 by 156, which is just fabulous. So we have gotten into orbit around Vesta, and that has fulfilled our contract for 720,000 funds. Congratulations, we can continue to gather data from the new satellite, yes indeed, and we have plenty of science to do. As you can see, we have a good 90 days worth of science that we want to get done, so I'm just going to go ahead and place a node on that now. 91 days, boop, there we go. And that is when we can move this down into a lower orbit. So I'm just going to let us rotate around as we get up into the apoapsis of our orbit. We're going to just halt here and bring our orbit up. And I just want to see, I'm imagining with how small this planet is and the low speeds that are that we're dealing with here, I can probably get up and over 300,000 without even firing up this engine. Yeah, look at that. And you see how much effect we're having here. Just although there's no reason not to. This thing doesn't have any actual doesn't have ignitions, so it's actually fine to just do what I just did there. So there we go. We are up in space high over Vesta, and we have a ton of science to get. All right, so our experiments are going to require us to do a little bit of maneuvering about, and I have a very limited amount of fuel left, but the main mission is complete, and now it's just a matter of getting the science that we want to get. We have the orbital perturbation experiment, which is that good old, the one that looks like the gravioli, and that is something that requires us to be at least at a 50-degree inclination, which I just didn't even think about until I went through all my science experiments and saw that I had big unmet requirements warnings on them. So we are going to automate the change of our inclination, and that's going to cost us about 30 meters per second. And just continue. Oh, am I out of... I'm out of connection, but that didn't actually finish us, so let's rotate around. Okay, and then we're just using RCS to finish this off a little bit. There we go. 50 point nothing. So there we go. That gets us the orbital perturbation experiment, which is the one that lasts 10 years. But, you know, there's no reason not to be getting as much science as we possibly can. We also need to increase our eccentricity to above 0.1. So I'm just going to burn our RCS prograde until we get to that point. And you can see our eccentricity is rising and rising here, and there's no need for us to stress about going any too high. We're still under our orbital contract, but we don't have that contract anymore, so that's not actually a problem. So there we go. Now we have a whole bunch of science that is going to be coming down, and once those are all finished, we'll be able to move down to a lower orbit and do this whole process once again. But yeah, easy peasy. And that guy has us with 200 meters per second left, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to finish off everything and get all that science and so forth. So yeah, fantastic. I just can't believe how well this has worked. I am so excited about that. If I remember properly, this decoupler still actually has a bit of force on it, so I need to be careful about decoupling this, but the idea was that I would be able to use the last bit to get into a lower orbit or whatever, but hopefully it's not going to go as far as to try to land. But yeah, so that is it for the Hermes 2 Vesta, which has been in flight for a year and a half. So yeah, we have the latest and greatest technology of a year and a half ago, middle of 1975. So yeah, that is gonna do it for this particular spacecraft. That's a very successful mission. I could not ask for any better, and we're just going to be getting a whole bunch of more returns as we get that science back. So let's move on to the next thing. All right, so looking towards the future, one thing that we absolutely are going to need to be able to do to commit to bringing people to Mars and exploring that for the very first time is the ability to habitate for a long period of time. And so we've proven that we can do that in orbit for 30 days with Lunat Station. And now I think it's time for us to take the Lunar Surface Outpost contract and prove that we can do that on the surface of the moon. So we haven't even done our Apollo-style landing yet, but we have landed, and we have proven that we can do so. And I think that with the amount of money that this is going to give us in advance, and the fact that we have 6 years to complete this contract, I think that we are going to be able to achieve a lunar surface outpost by 1981. So let's go ahead and take that contract, which brings us up to 8.3 million funds, which you'll notice is above that magic number. That's right, 6 million funds means we can upgrade to max level research and development. So in about 117 days, we are going to have the max level research and development, which is going to increase the speed of our tech, but more importantly, it is going to allow us to proceed past the era of space planes and long-term space habitation era. Once we have this building completed, all of this technology is going to be unlocked for us. And so while we're here, let's take a look a little bit at what we have to look forward to. So the post-Apollo era is relatively sparse, because the focus has always been on realistic progression 1, on getting through the realistic progression of rocketry, generally up to the Apollo era. There are some extra stuff, like you can get space shuttle technology and get the cargo bays and cockpit and that sort of thing. There are engines that are specific to the space shuttle, like this R40 little attitude controller on the space shuttle. So I cannot for the life of me find the shuttle, the space shuttle SRBs. I'm not sure if it's just roped into one of these UA 1206s, or 120 somethings. But in any case, yeah, there's shuttle parts to use after the Apollo is wrapped. Once you're finished up with Apollo, and if you want to move on in that direction, there's also Big G and the Big Gemini stuff. If you want to do things in that direction. But after you do that, there's not really much in this direction. Up in this point, the highest thing is there's a Rapier engine, which works a little bit like your both jet propulsion and also rocket propulsion engine. So it's that dual mode type engine. Apparently burns methane, which is fun. There's not a whole lot in super duper jets. There's a turbofan up here. I mean, that's sure fine. Up in the modern capsules, there is indeed the Orion stack. So that's right here, and it looks to me like, I mean, well, I don't actually have it here, so I can't see it, but it looks like it uses the right stuff, although it kind of looks a little bit like the Apollo to me, but I can't tell from here. But in any case, we have the Orion and we have the CST-100 capsule and all the little bits and bobs that go along with those capsules and their service modules, which is super duper cool. So those are some super advanced near future capsules that we have to look forward to if I get that far. But there's nothing beyond that. As far as space station components, there's just a couple little bits like this, which I'm not sure if that's just not textured or what. So the cupola here in improved orbital construction around the time that we would have that in the construction of the International Space Station. Inflatable habitation bits, which brings us closer to today, and that's it. That, although I do really enjoy the icon for the late space station nodes. For docking ports, we have some more interesting little engines and better docking ports, increased RCS, that sort of thing. We do have a technology node here for grid fins, which is interesting. And that gets us like a more modern docking systems, the Super Dracos. Oh, so we have Super Dracos, but I haven't seen a Dragon capsule yet. Maybe that'll be down here. So let's keep poking around. Orion RCS thrusters, very cool. Rovers, more landing stuff. The Mars landing engine, oh, that's kind of nice. That's something I can look forward to. Reusability just gets us a better engine, or a better wheel, which is interesting. Heat shield for the Starliner capsule. So yeah, there's things here, but it's like there's just not a lot because I don't have any mods that add stuff into this area, and the core experience of RP-1 is mostly focused back in this direction. We got a shiny, we got a lot of engine stuff. Like, I'm not going to go over all the individual engine bits that we're going to be getting because I don't know them yet and I haven't had time to do the research for them, so that's something that we'll get to. But we have lots of good stuff in these all the way up to the near future node. See, we got all kinds of good stuff to look forward to, like the F1B. Oh man. Yeah, so we're getting up to things that are proposed to be used on the Space Launch System, which is kind of fun. But nothing, I think, in the far future technology nodes. I don't think any one of these has a thing in them. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that. But we do have engine bits everywhere else, is what I'm getting at. Even the solids, and yeah, this is the closest thing to the shuttle SRB that I've been able to find. I'm sure it's in here somewhere, but I just haven't found it. But this is the upgraded version that comes out in the in 2009 to 2018, so that's not the original by any stretch. Electric propulsion starts all the way up here in the 1998-2003. We get our first ion thruster, which I'm like, I don't know if we're going to get to, and I'm not because I have no idea what these are going to be like. So I can't like pretend I'm going to be super excited and I'm waiting for it. But like, yeah, that's when this first starts, is all the way up here. And then that's it. There's just the one. So there you go. We have exactly one thruster, and that's the N-Star. And that is indeed the ion engine that was used on the Dawn spacecraft. So, brings that full circle. We've got new nuclear propulsion, maybe a bimodal nuclear thermal rocket. That's pretty exciting. So yeah, there's some of that up there, and I'm not going to get too ahead of myself on these because I have no idea if and when we're going to get to it. But in terms of when certain things unlock, electric propulsion unlocks up here. We've got better wheels and better landing stuff that is coming up in this direction. Better space station parts is pretty far ahead in the future as well. Space shuttle stuff is in a node that I can get now. And regolith harvesting is up here in the next node that I can get once I unlock this science facility. So in theory, I should even be able to do some extraction and ISRU to perhaps refuel spacecraft, which is an interesting idea. Not something I'd considered in any way in RP-1, but I guess it's possible. Yeah, here's the ISRU modules. So yeah, there is stuff from Kerbalism that is built in that is going to be able to do some of that. So maybe if we get this far, this will be a part of how we plan our missions. Another big key unlock is International Cooperation Era Materials Science. So this is the ISS era. That is when you get radiators. I don't have radiators now. Somebody commented fairly recently about just needing to slap on some radiators and plenty of insulation on a liquid hydrogen tank to make sure that you keep the fuel nice and cold forever. I don't have radiators yet. When I do, I will be so excited. You'll know when I get radiators. But we've got coming up oh no, radiators are coming here, not all the way up here, but back here in Spaceplane era, we're going to get our first fin radiators that we can slap on the side. So still in research, still in progress, but we're not there yet. But in any case, we're going to get lots of different upgrades to tankage is coming up soon. I've actually got one on balloon tanks coming up, which is pretty exciting. Separate structure, and then integral tanks up here. Looks like we've got upgrades in materials all the way up to near future. The electronics research is always just blue sky. And then down here, you can see that we don't have, oh, there's one. There's an RTG, multi-mission RTG, 0.110 per second, which is pretty, actually less than this one. Is it just like really light or small? 0.09, 0.03, I'm not sure. Okay, I don't understand why this one's actually any better. 0.11. 0.158. Okay, I have no idea why that one is so expensive and further down the tree when it seems to be objectively worse, but maybe I'm not reading it properly. We continue to get more and bigger and more exciting solar panel technology, which is just really, really cool. Let me get the specific Orion panels there. Our communications is going to stop abruptly here at efficient communications when we get tech level 9, which is going to allow us to get Ka band. Ka band? Is that, do you actually pronounce it like that? Ka band? That's when you get this, and that is it for radio technology. That is as good as it can possibly get. We have some more. I don't know what this is. Procedural avionics is going to continue. I don't think there's any big breakthroughs. It's just if you just look at these, it's just incremental improvements across the board forever and ever, which is just fine by me. And finally, the science experiments. So we have lots of new experiments that are happening all the time. The survey scanner being one of the more interesting ones, because that is going to facilitate the in situ resource utilization that I mentioned above. The survey scanner and the narrowband scanner are the key parts of that. And we're also going to be getting the other parts of the ScanSat technology. So we're going to be able to do biome scan and anomaly scan of all the bodies. That is something that comes very, very late in the game, which is kind of a bummer, because I generally like to do that early on so that I can get a lot of information on where I'm going and what I'm doing. Just more science. Not sure there's anything super interesting to talk about that, but the new ScanSat parts is really the big one as far as what becomes available. So yeah, that is my little overview of what the future tech tree looks like. Nothing that I have in any of my mods has anything at all past the near space nodes, which are here, near future and advanced near future. There's nothing past here, at least for me. There are definitely mods that do that, but it's not something that I was willing to go into, because what I'm trying to do here is just do kind of like the core experience of realism overhaul in RP-1, and that is what I want to get across. So that is what we are going to leave that with for now. We still have so much to research, so much to do. We got this whole chunk of technology, and it's going to take us quite a while to get through it. So let's get to it. But that is going to do it for us today. Spent a lot of time talking about our technology and going through the tech tree, and not a lot of time actually executing our missions, but we do have some cool stuff coming up very soon, so look forward to that. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know what you think down in the comments below, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.